they get sick of testing, I feel, but for me as a teacher, then I can reorganize my groups for the following week based on the test that they took.
I feel horrible when I hear the word test because there are too many tests at my school. I don't like it.
I think you have to prepare your students and let them know you're going to be tested a lot, and here's why. I tell my students that they're going to be tested, and it's more for my information so that I know if they understood what I taught or if they need extra help. So I try to not put too much pressure on them. Just do your best.
I don't like tests because they put a lot of stress on me.
As a teacher, testing and assessment is critical and it is important, and without it, I don't know how to best meet the needs of my kids.
Sometimes I get bad grades.
I like to write down my own thing, write it a story or something. I don't know, something that I think of.
I feel that we should be more creative in schools and have more time to do art and be ourselves and everything like that.
Get to have more time with the teachers.
I don't know.
I felt like she couldn't hear me, like there was some kind of pots and pans banging between us.
It made me feel like I wasn't learning because they didn't spend enough time on one subject, and they just told you to do this, and then she wouldn't take any questions, so it made me feel like I wasn't learning. It made me feel like when I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be dumb and stupid.
I think school should be more than just sit down and paperwork and more get up and get action. Last week, my art teacher, the boy sitting next to me, Xavier, he asked the teacher a question, and she said that she was going to give him a demerit if he asked another question, and I thought that was really sad because he's a really good drawer. And I was just asking, what else should we do, and I felt that was really sad.
She would just say, well, look in the book, or that's not a good question. She wouldn't like us when we asked questions. It's like we took up too much of her time, which I think questions are better. I would rather, if I was a teacher, I would rather my kids ask so many questions than just sit there thinking about a question, not telling the teacher.
When I didn't really ask that much questions because I felt like it was going to be wow, you don't even know that already? You already went through it.
Well, there's definitely time constraints because we are very bound by the standards and the curriculum that we have to cover. And every day that time is essential to get to the end goal of that school year. To a certain degree, younger kids have a hard time formulating questions, so a lot of our teaching strategy is teaching them how to ask a question, not share an experience to get to the point. I'm always alert and aware that we don't have time to get sidetracked with a lot of stories. I've taught 23 years. We certainly have a lot more freedom, and especially I teach second grade, so 7- and 8-year-olds. There was time to develop curriculum more suited to their interests. So if there was a large group of kids that were really interested in a certain subject, we could go down that path and spend a lot more time on that. So definitely that option has been taken away. We cluster together the kids that are below 75%, and so anybody that's performing below that is put into an intervention group, and we reteach that standard until, it improves.
Your enrollment of 25 children, 30 children in a classroom, you cannot have a set mold and have every child act as the same.
Not when there's a time constraint, and not when there's pressure. The times that you can are are limited if you have to do something and have to get to a certain standard or certain point by a certain time because of a certain test. Those moments only happen off the record, after school, interactions, just if you're walking through the school. That's when that happens.
Yes.
But inside the classroom, if you have to get to something by a certain point, then the interactions of getting to know your kids are very limited.
A child's voice in your classroom is one of the most important things. The rhythm of your classroom, it goes by their questions. It tells you what mood your children are in, what the flow is going to be for learning. If you don't know what they're thinking or how they're feeling, you're not going to know how they're going to accept or how they're going to process what you're trying to teach them. You get to that point where you don't have the time, then your structure has to change. Not only do you have to hear the child's voice, you have to let that child know that you understand the questions that they're asking. You must have that if you want a classroom to work in a way where someone's going to be learning something.
Sometimes when the kids want to discuss a topic more than I've given time in my lesson plans, it's hard to give them that time to discuss it. You're like, okay, we need to move on. So if you go at a slower pace, then you won't get to teaching those kids those standards, and your kids will miss those questions. So in class, when they ask questions, you kind of feel like you have to address it and move on, and if they have a lot of questions, you kind of have to tell them, okay, we'll save those for later.